and we're just taking a look at what's happening. And it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons why I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Mr. President, does the issue give you any? As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
What's up, family? So we got to talk about the news that's about to shake the financial system to its core. And I'm talking about something that ain't just political gossip or Wall Street drama. This right here could send real shockwaves through the economy, the markets, and the government itself. And I'm talking about the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, who just came out talking about how he's under a criminal investigation. And he's saying it's all political. He's claiming this is an intimidation from the Trump administration, right? So now hold up. For a lot of y'all who don't really know the financial system or who don't know who Jerome Powell is, let me break this all the way down real quick, plain English style. Jerome Powell is basically the boss of money in America. Like, if money had a CEO, it'll be him. He runs the Federal Reserve. That's the central bank of the United States. They control interest rates, how much money gets printed, how inflation gets handled, all of that. If the economy is a car, Powell's the one behind the wheel, either pressing the gas or tapping the brakes. So when the man is in charge of all of that is saying he's under a criminal investigation, that's not just news. That's an earthquake. And then he jumps on camera, right? Makes this little video looking all serious, all nervous, talking about how this is just political pressure from Trump and that he didn't do anything wrong. And listen, I'm not saying he did or didn't, but let's use common sense here. If you really didn't do anything wrong, why the video? Why go public like this? Think about it like this. If your boss accuses you of stealing at work and before HR even says anything, you post a video like, hey, y'all, I ain't steal nothing. This is just my boss trying to get me fired. Like, bro, what you posting a video for? That makes you look more suspicious, not less. But I want you guys to check out the clip. With no further ado, let's go.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
And that's not how innocent people usually act, right? Most innocent folks let their lawyers do the talking, they let the facts cleared up. But when you hop on camera early, before the charges are even really dropped, or, you know what I'm saying, trying to get ahead of the story, a lot of times that's guilt talking. And that's not innocence. But hey, y'all decide for yourselves. Let me know down in the comments below and get this video a big thumbs up. But I'm just saying, when the head of the Fed, the same dude who was beefing with Trump over interest rates, suddenly says he's being targeted and then drops this weird little damage control video, that don't sit right with me. It feels more like a chess move than a cry for help. And the whole thing smells off, and it's definitely going to make Wall Street nervous, especially with how sensitive the markets are to anything related to the Fed. So yeah, just pay attention, because this ain't just another headline. This is one of those moments that could change the game in real time. And when you look at it, I want to talk about how already the mainstream liberal media is about to eat this up. You got CNN, MSNBC, now known as MS Now. The usual suspects, they're about to run with the whole narrative like, oh my God, Trump's trying to bully the Federal Reserve. He's trying to control interest rates. This is what dictators do. Ho, ho, ho. Right? The Fed should be independent. Bro, just stop it. Stop. Can we please stop pretending the Federal Reserve is this pure, wholly untouched by politics institution, or untouched by politics institution? Like, let's be real. This whole idea that the Federal Reserve is independent, that's cap. That's a lie. That's faking a funk to me. That's political theater. It's the illusion of independence, not the reality. You really think Jerome Powell ain't a political actor? You really think these people aren't sitting back in the back rooms making deals with folks in the White House, strategizing their language to keep the administration's image clean? Like, come on, bro. This is the same Jerome Powell who is running around repeating that inflation is transitory nonsense. That same buzzword that Jeanette Yellen was pushing. Who's Jeanette Yellen? Oh, the Secretary of Treasury, the Treasury Secretary under Joe Biden. You telling me that's a coincidence? That the head of the Fed and the Treasury Secretary, 2 of the most powerful economic voices in the country, just happen to be reading from the same script at the same damn time. No, that's coordination. That's messaging. That's politics. And they got it completely wrong. But like, let's not forget the whole transitory inflation talk was a massive L. Okay. While regular people were out here watching gas, groceries, rent, car prices, everything skyrocket, these folks were there on national TV telling everybody, don't worry, it's just temporary. Man, if you listen to them, you probably got wrecked financially, right? But now I want to go to the mainstream media. Let's check it out.
Chairman Jerome Powell says the Department of Justice served the Fed with a grand jury subpoena related to his testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. The New York Times is reporting that a criminal investigation has been opened into the chairman over those renovations at the Fed headquarters. Now, in a statement, Powell says, quote, this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. So, guys, he is basically saying this is a pretext. Trump has been, the president, very critical of the chairman here on interest rates on a number of fronts. It's very clear that there's no love lost there. Trump has sparred with that guy over these renovations, and now there's this criminal investigation apparently into it. I've lived through enough Trump drama to wait and see what the actual facts are before leaning in too much into any narrative. But Joey, you know that the narrative coming from at least one side here is going to be Trump hates Powell. He's been pressuring Powell for a long time. And now here's the Justice Department swooping in. It's political. What do you think?
That is the narrative.
I think that any sunshine is good. That's what I think.
That is exactly the narrative. He got it right on key. Right on key.
I think our federal government, in a way, is at war with itself in a very partisan way. I mean, that's kind of obvious. We saw the previous president under the Biden administration, the previous president get investigated and indicted in several different ways. A lot of it really completely fell apart, and the rest of it continues to. So there's one side of it. The other side of it is, through all of that, I learned that we had one previous president that had documents at Mar-a-Lago that probably shouldn't be there. We had another one that had documents in his carport that shouldn't be there. And now we're learning that a Fed chair might have lied under testimony about splurging on renovations that he shouldn't have. What do we get from all this? Hopefully the next generation of leaders think twice before they pad their own pockets or do anything that by the letter of the law they shouldn't do. So I think it's ultimately a good thing that we have to live through this if there's some sunshine on the back end. I don't know it's going to turn into some sort of conviction, but hey, if you didn't do anything wrong, I guess don't be upset if they're looking.
Tommy.
Exactly. If you didn't do anything wrong, why you tripping, bruh? Exactly. But the reason why we the reason why we ended up in this mess is because Jerome Powell waited too long to raise interest rates. He sat on his hands while inflation was going crazy, and by the time he finally stepped in, the damage was done. Then fast forward now, Trump's on his back saying Powell's moving too slow to lower rates again. It's like he can't get it right on either end. And listen, I'm not here to tell you if Trump is right or wrong about this being intimidation. That part, who knows? Maybe Trump is flexing on him. Or maybe, and I know this might be crazy thought or thinking or thoughtful thinking. Some of y'all on the left, maybe the guy actually did something wrong. Maybe the investigation is legit. Maybe it's not some fascist conspiracy. I know that's hard for y'all to process on the left, that your little institutional heroes might actually be corrupt. But newsflash, nobody is above the law. Not Trump, not Powell, not Biden, not anybody. And here's the wild part. This ain't even some brand new out of the blue situation. This been bubbling for a minute, right? Other Republicans have already been calling for investigations into Jerome Powell. Why? Because he allegedly lied to Congress about this little project at the Fed, renovations going down at the Federal Reserve buildings that are now way over budget, like hundreds of millions of dollars over budget, and taxpayer money gone, no explanation. So now you got questions about mismanagement, possible fraud, maybe even cover-ups, and somehow this is just Trump being a dictator. Nah. Let's stop with the fake outrage and start dealing with the facts. When regular people lie at work or blow through their budgets, they get fired. But when it's the Fed, suddenly everyone want to act like they're confused or like it's impossible for somebody that high up to be shady. Man, please wake up. There's smoke here, and where's there's smoke, there's usually fire. And the media want to protect Powell, but the people deserve answers. And if you don't believe me that the media want to protect Powell, I want you to look at MSNBC, now known as MS Now, as we know that they're a biased Democrat, mainstream liberal media outlet.
Turning now to breaking news, the New York Times reports that federal prosecutors are said to have opened an inquiry into Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Powell released a statement just moments ago, and I'm going to pull from it because it is quite powerful, and he is not hesitating to, put his case out there. He says, in part, quote, "The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation." Joining us right now, Yale Law School professor and president of the Budget Lab at Yale, Natasha Soren. Natasha, what do you make of this criminal investigation into the Fed chair and then this statement, which is fairly lengthy, coming from Powell?
And this statement is like pretty striking. It's striking when you think about the fact that Jay Powell was nominated to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve by President Trump. He has served on the Federal Reserve for Republicans and for Democrats alike, and you will not find another statement like this worded by this chair of the Federal Reserve. Powell has been widely respected as chair of the Federal Reserve, and he's someone who cares very deeply about the integrity of the law. He actually comes from a legal background himself, and I think he's sort of putting words to something that those of us who have been watching these trends over the course of the last many months have kind of realized, which is that this is a moment when central bank independence is on the line. It is a moment when this administration is taking actions and saying explicitly, you've heard J.D. Vance say explicitly, why should it be the case that the president doesn't have a voice setting interest rates? The sort of consequences of that type of interference in monetary policy are so problematic from an economic perspective. We know that because it has happened in this country before, that you have had a Federal Reserve that has worked to set interest rates in order to effectuate political agendas. What it comes with is recessions and high inflation for the American people.
So I interviewed Jay Powell in Dallas like 10 days after the 2024 election. Sorry, what year, what day is it? After the 2024 election. So Donald Trump had just been reelected. And I tried to get him to talk about Fed independence, and it was like pulling teeth. Right? He really did not want to get crosswise with the president. He wanted to keep his head down and just do monetary policy and just like.
So yeah, there you have it, right? The moment Jerome Powell said he was under investigation, the media, especially these liberal news networks, jumped right into the protect system mode like clockwork. They ain't even sitting back. They like let's wait and see. Maybe he did something wrong. Nope, they jump straight into this is political. Trump's trying to take control of the Fed. This is dictatorship, but you have to stop it, bro. Stop it. The Fed has never been truly independent. They keep telling y'all that. And that whole independent central bank line that she said in this clip right here is just something they say to make it sound like the Fed is above politics, but it's not. Jerome Powell is a political actor, period. He's been moving in step with the Biden administration for years. This is the same dude that was out here pushing the inflation is transitory line, just like Janet Yellen, who runs the Treasury under Biden at the time, and they were dead wrong, like embarrassing wrong. While regular folks were watching prices shoot through the roof, they were up here talking about, oh no, don't worry, this inflation thing is temporary. Meanwhile, gas was $5, eggs cost more than a steak, and the rent looked like a mortgage payment. And because they kept lying or dragging their feet, Powell waited too long to raise interest rates, and now he's getting the heat for being too slow to cut them. Bro can't win. And honestly, the economy's been paying the price for all of that fumbling. Now, when you look at the media, these same people, these so-called expert panels, they've been wrong over and over again. Remember when they said Trump's tariffs were going to crash the economy, that the markets would collapse, that this would be hyperinflation? None of that happened. They were wrong, dead wrong, consistently wrong, and they still got a job. Meanwhile, people out here losing real money based on their advice. So no, I don't take them seriously over here on this panel, as we see them right here in this clip that I just played. When they started crying about Trump threatening the Fed, let's also talk facts. Interest rates are going to have to come down no matter who's in charge. The system is what we call physically dominant, which is just a fancy word of saying that the government owes so much money, they literally can't afford for interest rates to stay high. It's like maxing out all your credit cards and then your monthly payment doubles. The U.S. government is paying more in interest on debt than it's paying for the entire military. Wrap your head around that. So even if Trump puts one of his people in the Fed, even if he handpicks the chair, they're still going to have to cut rates eventually. They don't really have a choice. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's basically out here running the biggest bond sales hustle in U.S. history. He's out here bragging about how he's selling all this government debt to keep the ship afloat. He's out here bragging about how he's selling all his government debt to keep the ship afloat. The Treasury is already making moves to push rates lower, whether the Fed plays along or not. So yeah, rates are coming down, period. If they don't, we risk economic collapse. That's just what it is. And yeah, some people out here saying that's what we need, a full collapse to reset the system. But most folks ain't trying to live through that. So again, rates going to come down. Everybody with 2 brain cells and a calculator knows this. Now, as far as inflation goes, a lot of these people screaming about Trump's going to bring massive inflation. They don't even understand how inflation works, and that's why their predictions keep flopping. Inflation don't just come from too much demand; it comes from supply problems. So, if interest rates drop and it helps businesses produce more, like more oil, more food, more housing, then that can actually help keep inflation in check. If we get more supply flowing through the system, prices can stabilize or even come down, especially if demand doesn't explode with it. So now I don't buy into the doom and gloom predictions. They've been wrong before and they'll be wrong again. Now, let's get back to Powell, right? Because let's look at the political angle. He's almost out. His term as Fed chair is wrapping up soon, a few months left. So it honestly doesn't even make sense that Trump or anyone should be pressuring him now. But bro's almost out the door. But here's where it gets interesting because Powell can actually stay on the Fed as a governor even after he's no longer the chair. His term as Fed governor doesn't end until 2028. So if he stays, he can still vote on interest rate policy and keep influencing the game just without the little title of chair. And if he chooses to stay in that seat, that's a big sign that he's playing politics because normally Fed chairs leave when their term is up and they don't hang around. But if he stays, especially knowing Trump might come back and try to pick someone like Kevin Hassett to replace him, it starts to look like sabotaging. Why? Because if Powell stays on as governor, that blocks Trump from adding a new person to the board. And there are only seven governor seats total. And if all seven are filled, the president can't bring a new person out of nowhere to be chair. And the chair has to already be a sitting governor. So if Powell holds him to that seat, he could basically block Trump from putting his guy in charge. And that's not just institutional tradition. That's just great political maneuvering. And if he does that, yeah, we'll know exactly what kind of game he's playing. So now, I want to show you one more thing when it comes to this whole thing, right? Because I want to look at the fact. So, fam, you have Congresswoman Anna Paulina Lona, right? This is her on X, formerly known as Twitter. And she sent a whole letter to former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and she wasn't playing around. She literally referred Jerome Powell to the Department of Justice for potential criminal investigation for perjury. And that's when you lie under oath, like straight up making false statements while you're literally sworn to tell the truth. And that's a felony, by the way. That's serious time if you're a regular person. So what did he lie about? Oh, just spending hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on luxury upgrades at the Federal Reserve's headquarters and then pretending like it wasn't happening. This isn't about a typo or a forgotten date. This is about a man in one of the most powerful positions in our country or in the country as well, under oath, that things like beehives, marble, water features, VIP dining rooms, and rooftop gardens didn't exist in the renovation plans. And guess what? That was not true. The actual documents, the official federal building renovation plans, say the exact opposite. So he said under oath, no beehives. The documents say yes, beehives. He said no rooftop gardens. Documents say there are rooftop gardens. Like, what are we doing here? So as it reads, it says, I am writing to formally refer Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome H. Powell to the Department of Justice for potential criminal investigation and prosecution for perjury, right? And then it goes down it says on June 25th, 2025, Jerome Powell provided testimony under oath before the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs regarding the renovation of Federal Reserve's building. In his statements, he made several materially false claims. He stated, one, there's no VIP dining room. There's no new marble. There are no special elevators, just old elevators that have been there. There are no new water features. There's no new There's no beehives. There's no roof terrace gardens. This statement is false, according to the Federal Reserve's final submission to the National Capital Planning Commission. Nearly all of those assertions, excluding the beehives, are contradicted by the actual project plans. Number two, when I was administrative governor before I became chair, I came to understand how badly the building really needed a serious renovation and never had one. This statement is also false. The Federal Reserve Board conducted a comprehensive renovation of the building from 1999 to 2003, which included the replacement of the roof, all major systems, and full refurbishing of interior courtyard spaces. But it gets worse, right? Because he also tried to downplay the whole thing by saying the cost increases from 1.9 billion to 2.5 billion, which are just minor changes. Minor changes, you casually add over $500 million to a construction project with our money, taxpayer money, the American taxpayer, and then lie to Congress about where you're spending it on, and it's still not even done, man, please, that's not minor. That's mismanagement at best, fraud at worst. And I already know what some people are going to say, oh, this is small potatoes. It's ticky tack. It's just political. Nah, lying under oath while you're handling billions of public dollars is not a small thing. That's real criminal behavior. And if the average person did this, if a contractor lied to the government about where $600 million went during a government job, bro, you'll be in handcuffs. You won't be giving speeches and pretending to be the victim and running to the victim Olympics. And this is the bigger problem with these so-called elite politicians and bureaucrats. Every time something shady happens with taxpayer money, we're told, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. That's just how government works. Like, no, we pay for this. That's our money, whether it's Powell at the Fed or fraud that just got exposed in Minnesota, where hundreds of millions to billions went missing from fake COVID programs. It all came from us. We pay taxes. We follow the law. We work regular jobs. And they treat us like we stupid when we ask where the money is going. Every time we say, hey, shouldn't someone be held accountable? They act like, oh, we're the crazy ones. But I'm sorry, hundreds of millions in luxury building upgrades during an inflation crisis when we're told the government's broke, that's a problem. And if Powell lied about that under oath, he needs to be held accountable, period. And let's just say it like it is. If Trump had done this, if Trump said it under oath, nope, none of that happened. And the documents prove he was lying, the media would be out for blood. MSNBC would have countdown clocks. Rachel Maddow would be sweating through her turtleneck, talking about how democracy is collapsing. You got Joyless Reed, she'll be talking trash. We got Abby Phillips over there on CNN. But when it comes to somebody like Powell, who's seen as an anti-Trump, who plays nice with the Biden administration, suddenly everyone wants to pretend like this ain't a big deal. Suddenly lying under oath is just paperwork. Nah, man, you don't get to be above the law just because you wear a suit and sound professional. You don't get to be wrong is wrong. If it turns out to be nothing, cool. If it ain't nothing, if it's a nothing burger, then we keep it moving. But if it's a something burger, if the documents and the receipts check out, look, if it ain't nothing, it won't be nothing. If it's something, then it's going to be something. Right? It's the same standard that should be held for the Democrats as it was for Trump. The law is supposed to be for everybody, not just for people you don't like. But for some reason, a lot of folks on the left can't seem to process that. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. Give this video a big thumbs up to help crush that YouTube algorithm. And as always, we having a conversation. Peace.